What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV match preview day. It is time to do it all over again. Time to put the disappointment behind us and look forward to another one. And very much looking forward to the game tomorrow, Tuesday night, under the lights at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Newcastle at home. They've already beaten us. No, we've drawn once and lost to them once in the Cup. And we'll get into the match previews and the predicted lineups and all that kind of stuff a bit later on in the stream. But hopes up, Sim?
Trying to get my hopes up. It's not great news today with more injuries. We'll get into all of that. But we are in desperation station at the moment. As Thomas Frank has so eloquently put it in his press conference, we are desperate. And I think that's the best way to put it at the moment. And as much as Newcastle are in the best of form, Dr. Tottenham is in great form, isn't he? So I don't think that will hold much bearing going into this game, and it's going to be a very difficult one. Newcastle as well, for themselves, need to get the result, and they've got very good players. It's not going to be an easy game, and God, who knows what Tottenham's going to turn up tomorrow. Yeah,
but let's be honest, what better than put you in a good mood than seeing Mauricio Pochettino and Jesus Perez last night with Jake Humphreys on the High Performance podcast. That was brilliant viewing, wasn't it?
It was perfectly timed, I would say, by Mauricio. Is it any coincidence he's starting to do interviews, podcasts, talking about his time at Tottenham and how much he loves Tottenham, with all the rumours circulating about potential return back to Tottenham next season? Yeah, there was definitely a smile on his face, a glint in his eye when he was talking about his time at Tottenham. He started out by talking about Harry Kane and how he saw Harry Kane in training, and we nearly bid for Welbeck and
we did bid. He said we did bid for Welbeck.
Yeah, we bid for Welbeck, and that would have cast Kane out. And they said, thank God that the Welbeck deal fell through, and he went to Arsenal instead, and it meant Kane stayed, and the rest is, as they say, is history. So that was obviously interesting to hear. But the main thing near the end, he was talking about what clubs mean the most to him. And he just said instantly Tottenham, the relationship we have with the fans, even the hierarchy, he was saying, was really, really good. Everyone really appreciated the job he did at Tottenham. Even now, he knows the love from the Tottenham fans. And he has said before, he didn't say it necessarily in this one, but he has said before of how much he wants to make a return.
He said it multiple times. He has said it multiple times, and we need to get this guy back at the football club. Like, I wanted him back before that interview, but last night we need him back at this. It's not even a want anymore. We need him back at this football club, in my opinion. And let's go through some of the quotes because, like you mentioned, he said that he was asked what club holds most special place in mine and Jesus Perez's hearts, and they had to hold up a board and write whose opposite sides club is, and they both just very quickly wrote down Tottenham. And they've been to Chelsea now, they've been to Paris Saint-Germain together. Pochettino was even a captain at PSG, so he had that kind of thing in his heart with PSG. They were manager at who's a Spanish club, Espanyol, and obviously he was a player for Espanyol for many years as well, so could have easily said Espanyol. He was at Southampton as well, but no, went straight to Tottenham, and that's definitely pulling on the heartstrings of a lot of Spurs fans last night and today. I think the timing is definitely not coincidental of this interview. It really isn't. We've seen it so many times with so many different things. I remember back in when Ange's job was up for thing, and Thomas Frank was doing a lot of interviews, and Harry Kane when he's been doing a lot of interviews, and Van de Ven now doing a lot of interviews and stuff like that. None of this stuff's coincidental. It's all meticulously planned, I'm telling you.
Wouldn't surprise me. I think that's probably what's happening here. I think they're soft launching a return for Pochettino. I think we all know that's where all roads probably lead at this current moment in time. I think it's just perfect timing as well. I know he's at a World Cup, so pre-season maybe it's not the best timing, but I think Frank, with the job he's doing at the moment, no real belief in him, no connection with the fan base, the hierarchy, the eyes are turning towards them, and they're coming under fire. They need an easy win. They need a better manager. They need a manager the fans can buy into and believe in. And Pochettino is going to be sitting there in the summer ready and waiting. He, by the sounds of things, doesn't sound like he wants to extend in the US by what he was saying in that interview. he was talking about returning to the Premier League. So I think the stars are aligning on this one. I think it's enough time since he's left as well, where you can say, yeah, it's time for him to have a homecoming. And just the way he was talking about the fans in Tottenham, we know he's would jump at the chance to come back. Apparently, when he was at PSG, he wanted to come back. We saw an interview a few months after he was sacked. I think was that also on BT, and he was saying, "I'd love to come back. I'd love a second crack at the whip. I've got unfinished business at Tottenham." So, I think when it comes to which direction the hierarchy can turn, I also think there's not many options out there as well, which is obviously leading to, if you've got a good manager like Poch willing to come back and wanting to be here, instead of having to convince one of these other managers to come, you've got one who wants to come. So I think it's all arrows are leading to this direction at the moment.
Would he be your number one choice?
He wouldn't be my number one, but...
Who would be your number one?
I mean, I've got unrealistic targets, but...
Yeah, I'm talking about realistic ones that we could actually bring in.
It depends where you define realistic, but in terms of a manager who's probably not going to be on the list of a number of other clubs, and a manager who's of a good quality and we know is going to want to come, I guess he is my number one on that front. Obviously, I would like to throw the book at a Nagelsmann, a Tuchel, an Alonso, but all those guys are most likely unattainable. If any of those guys are attainable, then I would go for it. But I can't see a world where they are, to be honest. So from that point of view, it kind of, where else is there? Then there's Pochettino. Who else of his level is attainable right now? And I can't think off the top of my head in terms of the best managers, unless you go for someone like a Poch when we first got him, who's maybe a bit under the radar, maybe is doing a better job than people give him credit for. Or even let's say like a Vincent Kompany when he was at Burnley, you identify a talented.
Well, that one would be Robbie Keane, wouldn't it?
Maybe Robbie. But that would be like a talented coach who you see the way he's playing football, and you think if you can implement that at Tottenham at a higher level, it would get better results. And I don't know who that manager is right now. Maybe an Iraola, but I think I'd probably rather Poch than Iraola. I don't think any other manager like a Marco Silva or a Oli Glasner. I'd rather Poch than all those guys. There's other managers maybe in Spain, the guy from Celta Vigo, he seems to be doing a good job. Italiano, people like him as well. But when it comes to a manager who is going to come in with the fans on side immediately, everyone's going to get behind him. I also think he's probably going to be given a bit more patience than a lot of other managers. Yeah, I think he's definitely high up on my list. No doubt about it. And just from a nostalgic or kind of football romantic point of view, I would love to see him just get a crack of the whip. And I also kind of feel like the club needs it, because we can't move on from him until it happens, will we? Then, once he comes in, whether it works or not, we can then stop talking about it. We just keep going back to him, let's just get Poch back. What if Poch comes back? Every time manager gets sacked, it's like Poch. So I think give him a second crack of the whip, and then I think it's good for the club. And I also think it could probably, but I think, look, let's be honest, I don't think it can get any much worse than it is. So it's only upwards from here, you would like to think.
Absolutely. I just want to feel something again, man. I haven't felt love for a manager like Pochettino ever since he's left the club. It was a horrible decision to sack him when we sacked him. The club is still in need of that painful rebuild, so let him come in. How many years later is it? 6-7 years later?
2019, 7.
Let's bring him in and give him the painful rebuild, which he thoroughly deserved at the time. Wherever it is, even if it's in the Championship, let him take the Hotspur Way graduates and smash the Championship. But nah, I think, look, we just need to feel something again as a fan base. And as much as it was unbelievable to win that trophy in Bilbao, that was a season of absolute carnage, and we felt something at the end of it, and it was proper taste of glory. But what Poch did at this football club hasn't been matched by any other manager in the Premier League era. I guess same with Ange and the trophy, but what Poch did was sustainable. It was real sustainable. It made us relevant. It made us one of the best teams in the country. He took us to heights that I know we didn't get over the line in terms of winning trophies, but he took us to heights and got us in conversations which we never thought we would ever be in.
And haven't returned to.
And have nowhere near close to return to. We've just been in a downward trajectory ever since then. So you're talking about title challenges. You're talking about Champions League finals, you know? Just to be in that conversation was like, before Pochettino came to the club, was like, that's never going to happen at this football club. He oversaw coming into the new stadium, and obviously he didn't get any money at that time. Spurs are actually, whatever people want to say about the hierarchy and how they manage the club, all valid points, but the Spurs are a very different club now to when Pochettino was the manager at the football club. He'll have a lot more money to play with. He'll be able to bring in signings, and the recruitment, Lange will have to go. Lange has to go. We need to get better recruitment at this football club. Paul Mitchell or whoever, but not Lange, and we need to have proper recruitment behind Pochettino if it's ever going to work. But that's the same with any manager, let's be honest.
I also think there's a lot of players right now he would like.
Yeah.
Could he get Romero back on side? You know, the Argentinian connection. Obviously, he's going to love people like Van der Ven. And look, obviously, it depends on where a lot of players' heads are in the summer. Maybe some players have just made their mind up they want to go. A bit like Harry Kane before Ange came in. He just made his mind up before, and there's nothing Ange could do. So there might be some players like that. But I think there's a lot of players that he will like in this squad.
But you look at like the young players, like I think, you know, young players coming through, like the Mikey Moores, even like Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray, these kind of guys. I think when you're looking at the fullbacks, I think Spence on one side and Udogie on another side is absolutely perfect, trying to reincarnate that kind of Kyle Walker and Danny Rose dynamic and stuff like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's true. And I think in terms of reincarnating the squad that he had, we have to look beyond that.
I don't think reincarnated, but those are the kind of fullbacks he likes. Powerful runners up and down. He did like Trippier, and that could be the Porro.
Porro could be good. I think Poch actually is quite adaptable, more than people think. I know he had like a way of playing, but we saw he changed formation sometimes. And I remember him talking about his time at Southampton, how, you know, he liked to play a high pressing system, right? But then he had Ricky Lambert up front. So he told Ricky, no, look, I know you're a different kind of player, so we're going to play you in a different kind of way. You're going to drop deeper. We're going to play long balls into you, and you're going to be hustling with centre-backs and bring the ball down. And, like, I'm not going to expect you to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. So he's very much adaptable in that sense. But obviously we know one thing's for sure, he wants to be the protagonist. He wants to go after teams. As Pep Guardiola said, there's some teams that wait for you and some teams that go for you. And Pochettino's teams are always ones that go for you. And that's what we need at this football club. We're waiting for teams way too much, especially this season. And we need to start going at teams again. And I think that's all what the players need as well. There's a few other things I think interesting to point out in the interview, talking about what he was asked, in the context of he is current USA manager, he was asked, what is the one competition that you want to win the most in your career? And he said the Premier League. And he didn't say the World Cup. So I think that goes to show where his head is at the moment as well, for sure. Because, you know, he's current USA manager. If you're a USA fan watching now, you're thinking, what the hell? Why aren't you saying the World Cup? You're our current manager, and you're saying you'd rather win the Premier League, which I thought was quite interesting. But he was asked by Jake Humphries, you know, are you a better coach than you are now? And he said, I think so, for sure. I think
he's not going to say no, though, is he?
I get that, but he said he definitely thinks he's a better coach than he was beforehand, best he's ever been. And he was asked, does he truly believe he'll win the Premier League and the Champions League? And he says, I believe 100% with like full belief I'm going to win the Premier League before my career ends. And he said, I don't know where it's going to be, I don't know which Premier League club, but I will win the Premier League. But I definitely think he mentioned, obviously, Jake Humphrey said at the end of the interview, he was joking about Tottenham, and he said maybe after the World Cup a return to the Premier League with Spurs, and they all like kind of laughed about it. But there was definitely like a twinge of seriousness about it. I think he clearly wants that return to Tottenham, for sure.
He is dying for it. As someone says, get those lemons back at Hotspur Way. That's what I saw. I want to see those lemons back at Hotspur Way. Like, literally, I am so in for bringing Pochettino back. Let me feel that connection with a manager once again. Let's get behind something. And as well, I think, because he's got credit in the bank for the job that he did at Tottenham, fans will be able to afford him more time and the time that he needs to imprint his ideas. And don't get me wrong, I think if Pochettino comes in, it's not going to bang straight away and we're going to be that Pochettino team that we were all those years ago. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a different project with different players, and he's going to need time to imprint his ideas. He's going to need time to bring in his players and stuff like that. So if you think Pochettino is just going to come back and we're going to be fighting at the top straight away, like, we're back to square one. We're going to be back to square one with Pochettino. He's pretty much picking up a similar club to the one that he picked up, maybe even worse. So
I kind of wish he got us at the beginning of this season. I think I'm worried a lot of damage has been done this season more than last, but because at least it was a certain way of playing instilled in the team, and now we've been playing this way. It's going to take even more time now to revert back. It's very frustrating, but look, better late than never.
To be fair though, like when Ange came in on the back of the defensive football that we're playing the year before, it didn't exactly take that much time to imprint his ideas.
That's fair, and we're maybe not going to have European football next season, so if that might help Pochettino, to be honest. So from that point of view, yeah, it's a fair comment. Also, he was talking about his time at other clubs, especially PSG, and he was talking about his struggles juggling like the big egos in the dressing room. You have Neymar, Mbappe, Messi, all unbelievable players.
See, Messi threw him under the bus.
Yeah, he was saying how there was some games where Messi just was walking around, and what is he going to do? You can't tell Messi what to do. Is Messi, and he said there were pundits calling him out for like, oh, it was your plan, wasn't it, to have Messi just walk around and not do anything? And he was like, oh, people think I've got so much power over Messi that I can, direct him to do anything. And he was like criticizing pundits for, putting all the blame on him and stuff like that. He was saying, I've got all these players. Like, who takes the penalties? Is it Neymar, Mbappe, Messi? They all want the penalty. They all deserve the penalty because they're all unbelievable world's best players. Like, how do you manage that situation?
I think it's a simple fix. Just tell Messi you're the penalty taker.
Yeah, you should 100%. But I can kind of. This is what I think a lot of people are saying, and obviously it's interesting to hear him say it, how like you've got three players there, and like Argentina have Messi up front in the World Cup and were brilliant, but that's one player that you're kind of everyone's fighting for, and he can just do what he wants. When you've got three players like that, how the hell do you manage that situation to get a coherent team where everyone's pressing and everyone's doing their job? You can maybe have one player kind of doing that, and he was actually comparing it to Tottenham. He's like, Tottenham, we didn't have any players like that. All 11, all pressing, all like working hard, doing their job. But we were obviously you got those margins, and what was why we were so successful. Everyone was like so much energy, and then you go to PSG and you have three players who basically don't run off the ball and not going to do any defending. And how the hell do you like cobble a team together to manage that situation off the ball? How do you like defend properly as a team when you've got three players who all feel like they're good enough not to defend?
And I think there are so many examples of it, isn't it? Because like you look at Real Madrid back when they had the Galacticos of like Roberto Carlos, Beckham and Figo and R9 and all this kind of stuff. Like they had so many like world-class stars at the top of their game, but they didn't win as much as they should have done with all those players. So I mean, on the face of things, you think, all right, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, you have them as your front three, you're going to win the lot. You're going to win everything. You're not going to lose the game. But it's not as simple as that.
Definitely
it really is not as simple as that.
You look at it took Neymar, Messi leaving to look at PSG are now.
Exactly.
And another point, he told a really funny story about Messi, how he took him off one game and all the Argentinian media were battering him for taking him off because Messi said he was fine, and he said he heard from the medical staff that he needed to be taken off, and a lot of people pay their money to watch Messi for 90 minutes and he's taking him off the pitch. And he went home and he went to his wife, and his wife was there sitting on the hotel bed, and she looked like really upset, and she was like, oh, what's wrong? And she was like, why'd you take off Messi? Why did you do it? Well, everyone's waiting for Messi and you take him off. I can't believe it. And Poch was like, what, you too? You as well. You're also going on to me about taking off Messi. You couldn't believe it. It's so funny. But obviously he's not going to have that problem at Tottenham, is he? In terms of, obviously there are some egos, obviously it's professional football, but in terms of that level, top the 0.0001% of players like Messi and Neymar and Mbappe, like the best of the best, he's not going to have that kind of ego problem at Tottenham. I'm pretty sure he comes in the dressing room and everyone's going to be fully behind him and everyone's going to be working hard for the team. And
I think he got a bad rap for the choices that he's made for the clubs that he's managed. I think the PSG job, people don't understand what a hard job that was at the time. Yeah, people underestimate that massively, and as you said, it's taken for Luis Enrique to rip the whole thing down and build it back up again and trust in young players for it to start to work again. And obviously, off the back of that, they've won the Champions League. The Chelsea job, he was only in for a year. And we know that Pochettino needs time to imprint his ideas and it's going to get better over a gradual process. And we saw over the year it did get better over the year. Second half of the season was a lot better than it was over the first half of the season. And they parted ways at the end of the season. So never know what could have happened in the next season. But he was starting to get... Where did they finish? They finished 6th in the end.
Yeah, he took them from 12th to 6th.
So,
and got to a cup final, I believe.
You know what I mean? So
well, they should have been that Liverpool team,
people say his job at Chelsea was like terrible and he was awful there. That's just not true. And
Palmer
it's not
had
the
his
case.
best season under him.
Exactly.
Probably. He brought through Gallagher as well. Like he did some good stuff there. Look, it wasn't perfect. There was definitely, I think, January time they were like in 12th, and there were big questions asked.
But it was his first season.
Yeah, he turned it around, and also he's picking up the pieces of what was a team that did finish 12th under Potter. I think they ended that season under Lampard, some of the worst form you've ever seen from any Chelsea team. A bit similar to us now, that ending of the season for Chelsea. So they had a lot of things to turn around there. And he was given, he had a lot of problems like Sterling on 300 grand a week. He had Aubameyang and things like that. Or I don't know if he'd left by then, but like he had a lot of problems to sort out. A bit similar to when he took over at Tottenham. Like a lot of problems to sort out older players.
But he wasn't afforded the time to fix it. Where at Tottenham he was afforded the time to fix it. And
apparently it was mutual as well. People say it was mutual at the end of the season to leave. It wasn't necessarily sat. Like he had a lot of issues with their.
Well, apparently selling Conor Gallagher was a big part of it as well because he wanted to keep Conor Gallagher.
Yeah, and I think. Yeah,
and now Conor Gallagher's at Spurs.
Now he's here now, exactly. And I think he had a lot of disagreements with the recruitment, and they end up parting ways mutually.
But this is what I'm saying. Like everyone talks about how bad Poch has been since leaving Tottenham, and look, his jobs haven't been resounding successes. Don't get me wrong, but there have been a lot of reasons why that hasn't been. It's not just been because he's just a terrible manager now. That's just not the case. Like he's still a top manager, in my opinion. I just think the jobs that he's taken were the wrong decisions for his career.
Do you think if he comes back with something to prove?
I think so, just because of the narrative around him. I mean, I don't agree with some of the narratives surrounding that he's been a total disaster since leaving Spurs. But I think because of that narrative, I do think he has something to prove.
Yeah, because if it doesn't work out at Tottenham, like would he struggle to get a job of that size again? Do you think this is kind of a big like? I don't know, I would call it a last chance, but because maybe a job in Spain or Italy he could probably get. But in the Premier League, does he get another top 6 club if it doesn't go well for Tottenham?
It depends what you mean, like not going well. Like, are we like another 17th place finish? Like, I don't know. I just think if you give the guy time, it will work. If you just say, if we do like what we're doing with Thomas Frank, and it's awful for like 6 months, and then you see like maybe a slightly bit of better play, like you still have to ride it through that, because I know if you give Pochettino time and he can work with his players and get who he needs, it'll go on an upward trajectory, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I just think we have, we know that he plays the football we want to see.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. Look, there are question marks about it in terms of where the game's at the moment and where it was when he took over at Tottenham and all those kind of things. But I guess, has he adapted? All these kind of stuff. Those are the question marks we've always asked of other managers. Same with Frank. Can he adapt to something else? Same with Mourinho. Has he adapted his game style to play a different way? And the answers at the moment to those questions were no. So to say it's going to be a yes with Poch, it's hard to say. Does he need to adapt? Maybe his football is good enough, or is it behind the times now? Because it was 10 years ago now where he was at the top of his game at Tottenham. So, or when he first took over anyway. So it was a very different landscape.
But we saw his football working at Chelsea. This is my whole point.
Well, yes and no. It worked, but I think even late in that season they got battered 5-0 to Arsenal. They drew like Sheffield.
Yeah, but that game from Arsenal, they had major injury problems that day. They played a kid at right back that nobody ever heard of. Like. There are reasons for this. On a general basis, that second half of the season was successful for Chelsea.
Yeah, they went to 6th, and I think they lost 2 in the last 15 or something.
Yeah.
So
like we can all pinpoint. There was even pinpoint moments in time at Tottenham when we got battered again. Look at that last game of the season against Newcastle where we got battered 5-1. Like we were a very good team then. So it's like on any given day, anything can happen on a football pitch. But the general basis is in that second half of the season, he was a good manager for Chelsea, and his tactics were working in the Premier League.
I remember a lot of, I mean, it might have been an emotional reaction at the time, but a lot of Chelsea fans disagreed with the sacking at the time. Obviously, they'd been like spending the whole season calling for him out, and then when he turned it around, come the end of the season, they were like, oh, it's a disgrace he's sacking. Like, look at the form we're on, all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of, I guess it's similar to like us with Ange, a lot of the season calling him out and win the league, and everyone's like, oh, it's a disgrace to sack him. Similar thing. So it's hard to know if it was the right decision for them at the time.
But I also feel a lot of Chelsea fans, a bit like Jose Mourinho at Spurs, was never on board with Pochettino because of his Tottenham links.
Yeah, I think that was every time they got a result, always Spursy, always bringing Tottenham here, all that kind of stuff. And that's always going to be something hovering over him. And even when he was Chelsea manager, he was talking well about Tottenham, I remember Louis came on our channel saying it's a disgrace what he said, because I can't remember what he said exactly, something like maybe he wishes Tottenham well or something, and obviously never sat right with a lot of Chelsea fans. So look, I think there's nothing to suggest this is a finished manager, but there's also little to suggest he is maybe as elite as we thought he was at Tottenham. At the time we thought this guy is up there with the best in the league, right? When he was battling the league with Pep and Klopp, we actually thought he was on that level, didn't we? When he was at Tottenham, we thought he was on the level of Klopp and maybe not Guardiola, but we thought he was on the top of the managers. He was
at the time.
No, don't get me wrong, 100%. But since he's left Tottenham,
Klopp and Pep weren't Klopp and Pep. They were.
Well, they were.
I mean, when Spurs were challenging league titles, we never finished below Liverpool or Man City.
But by the time he left, we were.
Yeah, by the time we left, we lost the Champions League final to Liverpool, and Liverpool obviously got 90 however many points that season.
Yeah. I'm just saying at the time, we were like, he's going to go on, he's going to win Premier Leagues, he's going to win Champions League.
But what I'm saying is Klopp and Pep emerged as he was out, basically. More or less. In his last full season.
Getting worse, they were getting
his last full season. That's when Klopp and Pep rose.
Yeah, I think Klopp got to the Champions League final before that. Didn't he? And he finished fourth, I think, that season. Obviously, they weren't at their very best, but they're already getting better. Anyway, my point being is, we were certain, right, when Poch left, this guy is an elite coach. Look what he did with Tottenham, where he got us from where we were. He's going to go on and win Premier Leagues. He's guaranteed to win trophy after trophy, right? And it didn't quite happen like that. So were we guilty of maybe overestimating not how good of a job he did, but how good he actually is? Or has the jobs worked, maybe he's picked the wrong job since he's left?
I believe he's still that same coach.
I'm not saying he's not the same coach, but
I believe the thought I have of what level he is, the jobs that he's had has not changed my mind. And I think there's been big reasons why. And I think if Luis Enrique was in that PSG job and wasn't afforded the kind of power to change a lot of things and to sell the big players, I think he'd be in the same mess that Pochettino was in. I don't doubt that one bit. So I think that Pochettino, his downfall since losing Spurs is because of the jobs that he's taken and the choices that he's made. It's not because of how good of a manager he is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there are question marks whether he is like as elite as we think he is. But I think there's definitely, we know he's good, or very good, I should say. We know he's a very good manager and a very good coach, very good man manager, plays great football. But is he on that elite level that we thought he was when he was at Tottenham before, and the job he did? We thought he was going to be like up there with the very best. And I think he's still got a bit of way to prove he's on that level. But what we know is we are getting a very good coach back at Tottenham. And he could be that level if he does the job again.
And not only are we getting a very good coach, like when the last very good coach that we got was Antonio Conte, but we know his heart was never in it. Pochettino's heart is going to be in it. Jesus Perez, his heart is going to be in it. The coaching staff and himself, they absolutely adore the club. They love the club. They want to be at the club. It's a manager that the fans have a big affinity with. It's a manager that has credit in the bank, that if it's not going right, we can trust this manager through the hard times and, trust that we'll get to the good times. But it all depends on, how he's backed in the market and everything like that. Last time he wasn't backed at all. So just bring him home, man.
Also, every trophy that we win with him is going to mean more, isn't it, than any other manager?
But any trophy that we win with anyone is going to mean a lot. But
no, but it's just going to mean more with him, isn't it?
If Pochettino brings this trophy to Tottenham, I mean, you just saw in the interview a few years ago how he spoke about, say, my one dream, if I need to do before I die, is bring a Premier League title to Tottenham Hotspur. You know, look how he says it as well.
It's a dying wish.
Look how he says it as well, and look at the interview yesterday. And whenever Tottenham's mentioned, just look at his face. Look at his face, and it just tells you, just that in itself tells you how much the guy loves the club. And that's very hard to come by. You know, Arteta and Arsenal, obviously Arteta has that affinity with Arsenal. He played there. He holds the club very dear to his heart. And it gives you that bit of extra motivation, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny to think about, because when he left Tottenham, we were like, oh, he's, you know, we've done him, obviously it was true, like we know we've done him dirty, we treated him horribly, we sacked him, and, you know, he's never going to come back. He would never consider him come back here. Why would he come back to this club when, you know, he's not going to get what he wants and we treat him that badly? But he's never said anything like that. He's always, pretty much since the day he left, he's always wanted to come back. So,
and I hate this. I hate this kind of thing that Spurs fans say sometimes, or some Spurs fans say, oh, but he never won anything. He never won anything. Yeah, fine, he never won anything, but we know reasons why he never won anything. We needed that bit extra. Every season we needed that bit extra. We never got it. We moved stadiums probably at the completely wrong time. We didn't spend money in 2 transfer windows under him, you know, just when we needed that little extra push. We got to such far places with him. FA Cup semi-finals, title challenges, second place finishes, Champions League final, you know. It's a manager that has taken us on heights that we never dreamed of being in. Like, if that's not enough, I don't know what is. So, a couple more comments as well from his thing said, to win the Europa League is good, but it's not enough for a club like Tottenham. It's not enough to challenge for the Carabao Cup or FA Cup or the Europa or the Conference League. It's a club that should be fighting for the Premier League and the Champions League. And look, with the infrastructure that we do have, it's absolutely spot on.
No, he's completely right. I'm mixed feelings about what he says there. I mean, I think obviously it's true, because the financials that we have, that we're capable of, we should 100% be challenging for those big trophies. If the infrastructure is there, it's all about just managing it right. That's all it is. It's all about making smart decisions. Everything else is in place. You know, you've got the money, you've got the facilities, everything is there. So obviously a club like us should be challenging. We want to be challenged for those big things. On the flip side, this is a manager who never won a trophy, saying, you know, kind of, is he downplaying winning the Europa League? Is he saying that's not enough? We need, you know, it's not good enough just to win the Europa League when he didn't win anything. So, you know, from that point of view, it's like, well, you have to appreciate that's a big trophy that we did win. But I think the general point, 100% agree.
You know, Harry Redknapp as well. Do you remember when we interviewed Harry Redknapp before we won the Europa League, like a few months before? I think we were still in the group stage, and we asked him what do you think about Spurs' prospects in the Europa League, and he completely shat all over that tournament.
Yeah, he's like, terrible. Yeah,
he was like, yeah, Spurs should win it. You know, you're the best team in it by far. You know, but Europa League is a Tim Pot trophy, essentially, is what he was saying, not in those words. Yeah, he never won it. He always played reserve players in the Europa League. He never took it seriously.
Yeah. Went out the group stage one year, I remember.
So I think Poch has got such high ambitions, you know?
Yeah, which is, some people criticised him in a way for that. Not for the ambitious side, but because he was so concentrated on winning those 2 trophies, did we miss out on maybe an FA Cup or a Carabao?
But we got to semi-finals of the FA Cup under him, though.
That's also true.
And that semi-final against Chelsea, when we lost 4-2, like we were good that day. Yeah. We were really good that day. That was probably our best. Well, was that our last time we were in a semi-final that day?
Chelsea, United the year later.
Yeah, we were much better in that day than we were against United. I'll tell you that. We should have won that game.
And we got to a Carabao final.
Yeah.
I think we got to a couple
in the first year.
I think we got to a few Carabao semis as well under him.
So, like, people say he always, like, disregarded the cups. We've been further with Pochettino in those cups than anyone else.
There were some games where, you know, we did play weakened teams and lose, but
like we went out to Colchester.
I remember there was a few.
But like most managers, when you play a lower league team, like you're going to play a understrength team. That just happens with every manager.
Yeah.
We had Troy Parrott up front that day. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And that Liverpool one, we're actually close to clawing that back. We had like kids coming on, and I can't remember who, but anyway. And another comment he says about what makes him feel that special connection to Spurs. And he said, still the people on the street, the fans of Tottenham really show the love and appreciation. And I think that's why it's so special. And he still has his house in North London.
There's a reason he hasn't got rid of it, I think. Do you think Romero, it's a better chance of him staying with someone like Poch at the helm? Do they have that
Potentially.
the Argentinian connection? Could that help?
Potentially. I think it could help. But like you mentioned before about the pre-season thing, that is actually a big thing because World Cup final was 19th of July. Pre-season starts 1st of July. It depends when USA go out, I guess. I was looking at the dates last night. Last 16.
Well, they ain't going to get to the final, are they?
That's what I'm saying. So last 16 is like the 2nd of July or something around that time. So if they get to the last 16 and get knocked out then it could be...
Are you saying if he goes out in the groups, then he's not going to get the job?
If he goes out in the groups... I want them to go out of the group so they can
but maybe they might make the Spurs think twice by giving him the job to go out of the groups.
He's such a dreamer though, Poch. He was like, yeah, I think we can win the World Cup.
Yeah. I don't know. I just got the feeling when he was talking about USA, he wasn't taking it that seriously. I don't know. Just got that feeling, that vibe.
Yeah,
anyway,
maybe. His mind is only in one place, and that is North
honestly,
London.
That's where it looked like.
And I think that's been the case for ages. I really believe that. But anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you want to see Pochettino back at Spurs? Do you think it will happen? I am actually convinced it's going to happen. And I've been convinced for ages. I've been saying it. This is the ENIC playbook as well. Like when they first came in, sacking George Graham, get the fans on side, bringing Glenn Hoddle. And now their first appointment is going to be bringing in back a club legend of Mauricio Pochettino. Would you take him if Ange would come back next season? Would you take him over Poch or taking Poch over Ange?
I'd probably take Poch.
Why?
Huh?
That's disappointing.
Is it?
Yeah, you're Ange's
Poch.
#1 fan.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I don't love Poch more.
You love Poch. Okay, fair enough.